Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Michael Edwards. It is the Bucks Beat. The Bucks are 2-1 on this first ever podcast. Really excited to be here with you. On this episode, we're going to talk about the Bucks. Obviously, it's the Beat. Bucks Beat. The Bucks have started pretty good, but we're going to talk about it. They're 2-1. We're going to talk about the Lillard Giannis connection. How's that going? And the prospect for the season. We're going to talk about the bench. We're also going to talk about the blockbuster trade overnight with James Harden and PJ Tucker going to the Clippers. The drama might be over in Philly, and we're also going to talk about the East. Let's go.
Lillard, step back three, on the way, got it! Damian Lillard, welcome to the Cream City. Game time has arrived.
You're listening to the Milwaukee Bucks Beat. Sponsored by Hungry Lion Productions Video Production Services. Video production from start to finish. Hire them today at hungrylionproductions.com. And now, here's your host, Michael Edwards.
All right, everyone, welcome to the show. I am Michael Edwards, and this is the Bucks Beat. It's our first show. Thanks for being here. You're one of the few. This is a tough thing to do. Start a podcast with no listeners. And a little bit about me. I've been a Bucks fan since I was 5 years old. So I've been a Bucks fan for 40 years. Do the math. My first game ever at the Mecca Arena, Bucks Bulls, Michael Jordan's rookie year. The Bucks win that game. And I've been a fan ever since. The days of Sidney Moncrief, Terry Cummings, Paul Pressey. Those are my boys. You know, I love the Bucks. And it's been a fun ride, especially lately. Up until the last 7 years, it's been rough. So the Bucks are 2-1. They win over the Heat, and for 3 quarters, the Bucks freaking dominated. And going into this game, I was nervous because the prior game, which we'll get into the first 2 games later, but they lose. They get blown out by the Atlanta Hawks. And no disrespect to Atlanta, they're a good team, but man, the Bucks, they just did not come out good. They actually maybe were watching the Packer game and rubbed off on them. I don't know. But in that game, the Bucks dominated last night. Miami Heat. They were up as much as 25 points, just taking them to the shed and making them pay for that first round. I'm just going to say a butt kicking last year. I mean, the Miami Heat was definitely on the Bucks' mind all offseason. And they just could not stop Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. So this was gratifying. It's a regular season. You don't win the championship in October. It's a nice win. Feels good. But that's really all it is. It's just another game. Let's be honest, right? So as a Bucks fan, the Miami Heat definitely gives me nightmares, especially in the fourth quarter. I mean, this happened last year in the playoffs. Bucks have 2 big leads, and going into the fourth, they just fall apart. And it almost happened again. 25-point lead. I think it went down to 4, I believe. Memory serves me correct. And man, Giannis Antetokounmpo, coming in dressed like the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. He actually did his press conference like that too, which is great. That guy's living his best life. I love him. What a good guy. And it's his best game of the year so far too. I really think that the Miami Heat is a matchup problem for the Bucks. And Tyler Hero was on fire in front of his family. I mean, you got to be motivated, right, to play in front of your family like that. I know I'd be. And he had a really good game. But I really wondered, did Jimmy Butler play? Because he was AWOL. And I'm not going to lie, as a Bucks fan, that felt good. The way he was talking to Drew Holiday last year in the playoffs, man, let's just be honest, that got under our skin. I mean, you got to credit the Heat. They are well coached, maybe the best coached team in the league, right? I mean, they don't give up. I mean, they're getting their ass beat, and they came back. So let's break into it here. I mean, the Bucks bench was on fire. On fire. I mean, and this is the thing about the Bucks that I think sets them apart from all the other teams, all the other super teams. And there's some good teams out there this year, but the Bucks bench is deep. I mean, really deep. And I mean, the thing is, you got to get those outliers, right? You're going to double Giannis. You're going to try to double Lillard. You got Chris, as long as he's healthy, right? I mean, Crowder's a big one. He's actually had a really good first 3 games. AJ Green's, the Beauchamps, like those guys, if they can hit shots, good luck. right? Good luck. And that's the thing about this Bucks team that really gives me a lot of confidence is any night somebody else can step up. And let's talk about that bench. Bobby Portis, man, the most consistent player through 3 games. I mean, he's coming in right now, averaging 20 minutes for the first 3 games. You know, they're about 13 points, 12.7 to be exact off the bench. And man, he's shooting 60%. That's pretty amazing. That's prime time right there. The dude is out hustling. I mean, he has just been dependable. And if the bench can get a little bit of that bench mob mentality they had a few years ago when they won the championship here in 2021, I mean, this team is really going to go far, I think. And, you know, everyone talks about Giannis and Dame, and obviously they're major players, but it's really those role players and, you know, obviously some of the starters too, but like Brooke and Chris. I mean, I really think, though, the Bucks have been disrespected. And I'm going to get into this later, talking about the East. But this is a win the Bucks needed. This game, I know it's early in the season, but after getting their ass kicked by the Hawks, and let's go into that game here a little bit, because I took some really good notes on that game. And honestly, I had to pour myself a tequila because that was tough to watch. Okay. So, I mean, no Chris Middleton, first of all, in this game. So you got to factor that in. Chris Middleton is one of those X Factor players. I mean, lots of bad passes, lots of poor shots. I mean, they look like they didn't want to be there, right? And they're missing simple putbacks. I mean, these little bunny shots they're missing. Like Lopez was the only player offensively that really showed up from the first unit. And there were so many breakdowns. I mean, there were guys wide open under the basket for Atlanta, and it just... The Bucks started out shooting 25%, 1 from 7 from 3-point land. Yuck. And if you haven't been a Bucks fan, this is how it normally is around these parts. The ball just does not fall in the cylinder from 3. I mean, it's not something we see consistently. They had as much as a 15-point deficit. They looked totally flat. Here's something that was weird, though, in that game. So with 36 seconds left, the Hawks challenged... I think was it an out of bounds play or something? I don't remember what it was. But I thought that was weird to challenge it that quick. That tells you that the Milwaukee Bucks are that team that is going to get the best swing from no matter who their opponent is on any given night. They are going to get the best swing. I mean, the Hawks wanted to win this game. This was an important game. They were coming in 0-2 and they didn't want to leave 0-3, and they obviously get the win. So I think this was a good moment, though, for the Bucks. It was almost good to kind of get that loss out of the way. And I mean, it wasn't just a loss. It was an ass whooping. Let's just be honest. Bobby Portis, though, the only guy coming off the bench, I think in 3 minutes, he had 7 points. They went on a 14-5 run to close the quarter. And coming out of the first quarter, we're thinking, okay, a little sloppy. This team hasn't really been together that long. There's new coaches. There's a lot of newness. It's fine, okay? And that's one thing I think it's going to take the Bucks a good month, right, to get going. Let's just be honest. I mean, they're human beings. They're superior athletes, but they're human beings. And they all have to see how they're going to gel and vibe together. And they're going to need that time. And practice, you can only go so far. But, I mean, I stopped taking notes after halftime. That's how bad it was. So I think that Hawks game really put a lot into the Bucks. And then they come out on Monday, the 30th. And I got to tell you, I was pumping my fist in the air watching the Bucks. I mean, through 3 games, they lead the league in offense. And they're not even playing that good. Let's just be honest. There's been bouts where, they've been great. But there's also been bouts where they've not been great. Obviously, basketball is a game of runs, but I think the expectations are high. And there is some pressure on the Bucks. There's no question about it, right? But 117.8 points, leading the league in points over the Dallas Mavericks, the Rockets, and the Clippers. Rounding out the top 5 is the Pelicans. I know it's early. Bucks have played 3 games, but man, and that's with minimum Chris Middleton too, right? His minutes have been limited. He's taking care of that knee, and they should. I mean, come springtime, we're going to need everybody healthy. And that is the key for this Bucks team. They're going to have to stay healthy. And I almost feel like there's a curse on us. So I'm hoping this is the year where we can just stay healthy. You know what I'm saying? I know Dame has had problems the last few years in Portland. staying healthy. And this is really going to be an interesting experiment, seeing how the Bucks are going to play together. So let's go back to that Heat game. I know I'm jumping around. I do have ADD, so deal with it. But Bobby Portis scored 16 points total. He had 14 in the first half. I mean, that dude came out, and he is that spark plug we need. Every team needs a spark plug, and Bobby is ours. And man, do we love him. If you do not love Bobby Portis, you are not a Milwaukee Bucks fan. I'm saying it right now. It's true. Cameron Payne had a really nice game too. 11 points. The bench outscores Miami's bench 30-6 in the first half. But man, those Heat reserves. I mean, this is something that is really important to note. Okay, so the Bucks win. Cool. Jimmy Butler didn't have the greatest game. No Bam. And throughout the fourth quarter, I mean, a lot of their starters were on the bench. So the Bucks need to learn that street ball will only get you so far. And man, good coaching. You see the value right there with the Heat. I mean, reserves were keeping up with the Bucks' first unit. And, Giannis took over that game. It was a Giannis game. It was also a Bobby game. And I love the Bobby games, right? The first half was a Bobby game. The second half wasn't as much. But, I mean, Tyler Hero, 35 points, 8 rebounds. Jimmy Butler only had 13 points. And, I mean, there's no point in talking about the past. Obviously, Drew Holiday's gone. But, man, does that leaves a mark. Every time, I've got every Heat game circled on the calendar because of what they did to us last year. I mean, I'll just be honest, it got under my skin, and it's still under my skin. And I respect the Heat. They are a good basketball team, but man, I want to beat them so bad. We want to beat them. We want to destroy them. Kind of like what we did the year we won the championship, but we swept them out. I mean, that's rare. That is really rare. I mean, the Heat really is a good basketball team. I think they're underrated, and I'm really glad that they didn't get Dame. I'm really glad the Bucks have Dame because, man, the league would be in trouble if Dame had gone there. So, okay. So moving on here, we're going to talk about the prospects of the season, okay? And one thing that I'm on Twitter. Is it X or whatever? People still call it Twitter, though. I'm just going to call it Twitter. X, it's weird. The person who owns it is a weirdo. I don't know. If you like them, no offense. I could go on a whole rant about that, but I will not. I'm going to save it because I'm sure you don't care. But it's Twitter. We're going to call it Twitter because it always says X, formerly known as Twitter. It's kind of like what Prince did back in the day, right? So I'm on Twitter, and one of the things that really it's obnoxious. Let's just be honest. It's the Celtics fans. I mean, are they good? Yeah, they're good. They're really good. But man, with the Bucks bench and our starting five, I really feel like they're disrespected. I really do. And I know, hey, I'm a Bucks fan. I got it. I'm a homer, whatever, fine. But Drew Holiday is a good basketball player. Do not get me wrong. He is good. But did he get smoked in the first round last year? I mean, dude still has third-degree burns all over his body from that. Jimmy Butler did to him, right? And that was embarrassing. It reminded me of the Eric Bledsoe days. I mean, I don't want to say Drew fell off, but in the first round he did. He fell off. And the dude cannot score consistently. So quite frankly, as a human being, I can't think of a better person than Drew Holiday in the NBA. Truly a class act. I love the guy. I mean, he really is a good dude. But on the floor, he had a good 21. But even when you look at his stats in 21, I mean, he got the job done when he needed to get the job done. And that's what a championship player is. There's no question he's a champion. But I still feel like, Dame is just a better fit for this Milwaukee Bucks team. We need that killer. We need that sniper, that cold-blooded closer in the final 5 minutes, and we've got him. He's on our team. We've got him. And I knew once Dame came to Milwaukee and Drew went to Portland, I told my wife, I said, watch the Celtics pick up Drew. And sure enough, it happened. But let's look at the Celtics, though. I mean, they lose some key players on defense. They get Porzingis. Look up Giannis' stats against Porzingis, by the way. Giannis dominates that dude, okay? And I just think Celtics fans, they overhype things on their team. They kind of, and no offense, obviously, like I'm a sports fan. I love sports. I love the camaraderie of sports. And I'm not hating. I'm just speaking my mind here. Okay. But like Cubs fans, every year they say, this is going to be our year. They did have one in the last 100 some years, but that's how Celtics fans remind me of, is every year they say, this is going to be our year. In 37 years, they have as many championships as the Bucks have in that same amount of time. One. So Celtics, hey, East Coast, Boston, pride, I get it, man, but they haven't won. I mean, if they've beaten the Bucks, sure, they have. And does it hurt? It hurts. But let's just be honest. I mean, the Bucks have a better bench. You have to strip away the homerness that Boston fans have. Boston fans are always going to disagree with that. But if you look at the bench and look at the players on that bench, I mean, obviously your starting five is really good in Boston. But the Milwaukee Bucks bench, I mean, is just, they're deadly. And there's a lot of these guys on the bench that could easily be starters, including Bobby Portis. I mean, it's a given. But I mean, one of the things I think is overlooked with the Bucks too, compared to the Celtics. Celtics, 1-2 punch is great, but I think the Bucks is better. I really do. I mean, you've got Chris, you've got Giannis, you've got Dame. You got those three right there. Then I think the guy who's always forgotten about is Brook Lopez. That dude, first of all, he should have won Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know how he didn't win that. Dominating performance. I think 35, 34 years old. I mean, what a dude. What a good dude, right? And then our fifth starter, I think it's going to be Beasley, who's a solid player. But I mean, you look at the Celtics starting five, they're good. But I just think the Bucks are better. They're better. Their bench is better. So seeing that it's like, a split four favorites really, I'm not going to lie, it pisses me off. It's if the Bucks were not in Milwaukee, if they were in a bigger market, ESPN loves the Celtics. I mean, they really do hate on the Bucks, especially Stephen A. Smith hates Milwaukee. Don't know why. And, that's my city, man. So it bothers me. So, and I'm sure it bothers you too out there. But I mean, when we look at this bench, you got Crowder. I mean, I got to say, Crowder has really had a good, honestly, going into last season, I was really concerned. I mean, giving up all those second round draft picks, I was really, really concerned because Crowder did not look good. But, he's putting in a full effort. His attitude, I think, has changed too. There might have been some bad blood with Bud. I don't really know about that. But I mean, when you look at the guys we have and the young talent we have, I'm just, AJ Green, the dude is a sniper. And I was happy to see that he got some time last night on the floor. He didn't play the greatest, but in big games when we need a 3-pointer, he's our guy. I mean, you put him out there with Dame and, one of them's going to get a shot. Pat Connaughton had a good game. There's always one player every year that I kind of get on their case a little bit as a fan. And lately for me, it's been Chris Middleton. And I'm not going to hate on Chris. I'm going to save it because, he was a huge part of the 21 championship. He did a good job in the playoffs last year, actually, despite, being out most of the season. But this year so far, I think the guy that I'm kind of leaning towards throwing a little shade on is Pat. But he had a good game last night, so I'm withholding that for now. Yeah, I really like this roster. Andre Jackson Jr., that guy's going to be a stud. No question about it. Ty Washington, I watched the Summer League, and these guys look pretty good. AJ Green, obviously, I've seen him play with the Herd in Oshkosh. Pretty good guy. And obviously, the man is Beauchamp. That's the dude. So I think there's a lot of things that the national media doesn't talk about. And because we're a small market, I don't know if we are the smallest, but I know we're one of the smallest. Who cares? It's the talent on the team. It's the coaching. It's the energy that this team has. Who cares what city they're in? So I don't know why the national media cares so much about market. It doesn't matter. And I mean, do you see the spirit of the city of Milwaukee when we were in the finals? I mean, have you been to the Deer District? I mean, it was a cultural phenomenon across the globe. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Okay? And if you haven't been there, don't hate, put it away. Because there's a lot about that city. Perception is not reality. It is a great city. Okay? And I'm going to probably rant about that in the future. I'm going to save it now because we got to move on here. But so I want to talk a little bit about, so I'll finish my conversation here on the East. So I say, the pressure's on the Bucks to win the East. Celtics are right there. Heat is really good. Philly, they got a whole bunch of players in that trade, which we're going to talk about in a brief moment here. James Harden and PJ Tucker going to the Clippers. And in return, they got like a half of a basketball team. Well coached by Nick Nurse. So who knows? They could be there. And Cleveland's going to be good. The Bulls could be good. The Bulls are one of those teams that on paper, this should be working. This should work. On paper, they have got some really good talent. So I wouldn't sleep on them. I wouldn't sleep on the Knicks either. Now let's talk about the West. So I'm not saying that Giannis caused this. Okay, I'm not saying that, but since the domination of Giannis Antetokounmpo in the East, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, and now James Harden all have gone from the East to the West. Okay, it's something to think about. I'm not saying it's because of Giannis. Okay, I'm not saying that, but it's food for thought. Okay. So the James Harden trade comes through at 2 a.m. I wake up this morning, it's Halloween day as I record this. And I'm like, wow, the trade actually went through. What took it so long? Like, what was the problem? So I'm really curious to kind of find out about that. But the West, who do you got coming out of the West? There's a lot of teams that are having an arms race, right? Obviously, you look at the Bucks and the Celtics. They're stacked. But out West, man, you got the Suns. And I'd probably go towards the Suns being the favorite, right? I'll be honest, I don't know much about their bench. No idea. No clue. But their starting five is pretty formidable. Lakers are good. Clippers are really good now too. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. The Clippers, the Mavericks and the Nuggets. I think those are the teams to really watch. You can never count the Nuggets out. But I do want to say that the Nuggets played probably the most efficient finals that I've seen in a long time. But for whatever reason, I'm not afraid of them. And I don't know why. I should be, because they're good. But Mavericks, they're offensively, they're a juggernaut. But let's talk about the Clippers. Okay, so you've got 4 All-Stars now for starters. So you've got Westbrook, you've got Leonard, you got Paul George, and now you have James Harden. All really good historical NBA players, no question about it. From this current generation, they're good. But all 4 of these guys are always injured. So they're going to have to stay healthy, and they're going to have to learn to play together. So, and the thing too is, like, every time there's a major trade, and the Bucks were one of these teams too. So I'm not saying the Bucks aren't. They were one of these teams. When the trade goes through, there's just this explosion of energy, and my team's going to win the finals. Okay, from whatever team that is that has the trade, and it was really annoying to me this morning, to be honest, seeing that, because the Clippers are a good team, no question about it. And I don't know anything about their bench or their role players. I know absolutely nothing. I study the Bucks, okay, and I really don't pay attention too much to the West. I pay more attention to the East. And as the season goes on, I'm sure that I'll learn more. But who do you got? Who do you got in the West? For me right now, and I'm going to change my mind if I need to, but right now I'm going to say the Suns. So the Bucks have 4 games this week. They lose to the Hawks. They beat the Heat. They play their first road game. And this is going to be a big one for Adrian Griffin against his ex-team in Toronto. And you know he wants to win that game. There's no question about it. I mean, the coaching staff has been changed, obviously, but there's no question he's going to want to win that one. And then the Bucks are going to be tested on Friday. See how good this Knicks team really is. Speaking of the Knicks, I'm really glad Giannis signed, because that was one of the teams that you always heard Knicks fans on Twitter saying, Giannis is going there. Oh, so glad that Giannis signed that. I was shocked when he signed the extension. I'm not going to lie. I was very shocked. I got a text from one of my friends and I was like, wait, what? But seeing how the deal was structured, it made sense why he signed it. And you know, what a good man, right? Giannis Antetokounmpo, what a good guy. And then coming up, the Bucks have the Nets, the Pistons, the Pacers, the Magic. So, you know, these are all winnable games. I think the toughest one is going to be the Knicks. Pacers are good. Tyrese Halliburton's the man. He is a very good man, actually. My wife taught at the high school he went to, and I was at the Fiserv Forum last season doing some film work, and I told one of the bouncers, the bodyguards, security people, we'll call them. That's what they are. And I said, hey, I know Tyrese. He actually knows my wife. He didn't no idea who I was. And I just mentioned it. I said, hey, if you see him on the court, can you go get him? Went and got him. Dude came, hung out with me. This dude's a superstar. And he was hanging out with me for a little while. And even recorded a promo for my wife. She does the film production and the TV production at the school. And he recorded a promo for that. So good man. I am a Tyrese Halliburton fan. Not a Pacers fan, though. So, I mean, I hope he has, 90 points. But I don't want the Pacers to win. I do wish he was a Milwaukee Buck, though, being honest. So, okay, first show. Maybe it's a little sloppy. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you have something you want to say. If you do, go to bucksbeat.com. Get our socials. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. And you can listen to this podcast anywhere where you hear your favorite podcast. Tell your friends, okay? We're going to get some guests this season. I have a lot planned. It's not just going to be me talking, I promise. But it is the first show, and I appreciate you. That wraps up this first show. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next one.